Hey there guys, this is your host Richard with another marvelous video. We know we've been covering a lot of Predator stuff lately, and we can't really help ourselves because there's so much in demand. Clearly, your wish is our command, and that brings us to yet another Predator-related video. Now, if you've been keeping track of all our recent videos, you'll recall us exploring the first 3 issues of Predator: The Last Hunt, where our primary focus was on the terrifying bioweapon that the Predators have in their possession to take down entire enemies, and our secondary focus was on the character of Theta Yautja. Well, if you're a fan of the veteran Predator hunter just like us, this video is for you then. Naturally, this brings us to the main contents of today's video, where we'll be delving deeper into the whole storyline of Theta Yautja. Mind you, this video will include her origin story, and to make things even more exciting, we'll also be looking at her story from different Predator comics. Oh, this has us psyched up already. Without further ado, let's get to know Theta, shall we? Before we embark on our exploration, we have a humble request. If you find our content enjoyable and informative, we'd greatly appreciate your support through a subscription to our channel. Your small click can make a big difference for us. Thanks for considering this. Now, let's dive in. Theta Yautja origin explored. Theta was the daughter of botanists Hugo and Francesca Yautja, who worked for the industrial business Astar Industries, primarily in charge of space exploration and off-world colonization. Now, for a better understanding of the character's origin, we'll first look into the 6-issue comic book series Predator, written by Ed Brisson, penciled by Kev Walker, and colored by Frank D'Armata. Mind you, a lot's happening in the comic series, so our focus will strictly be on Theta and the events surrounding her. Therefore, we'll explore each issue in the form of chapters, so let's begin right away. Chapter 1 begins with veteran Predator hunter Theta Yautja engaged in an intense battle against a Predator on the planet X14432-8. The year is 2056, and judging Theta's fighting skills, it becomes pretty clear that this isn't the first Predator she's been up against. With the help of an axe and later a machete, Theta is easily able to decapitate the Predator. But she ends up being super annoyed upon realizing that the Predator she's just killed isn't the one that she's after. While we, as the readers, don't realize then what the matter is, we're taken to a flashback. The year is 2041, and we find ourselves on the terrestrial planet Damara. A young Theta is seen enjoying herself surrounded by wildlife when she hears her parents calling her. We learn Hugo and Francesca are interstellar surveyors who have come to the planet to study the native wildlife. Theta has tagged along with her parents, and the latter, for obvious reasons, don't want the child to wander outside their exploratory spacecraft Sandpiper. But Theta has her reasons. She's more than tired of constantly conversing with the spacecraft's AI, Sandy, and to top things off, it's been several months already that they've been on the planet. Anyway, with Hugo and Francesca about to take Theta back to Sandpiper, Hugo feels a sudden movement in the trees, right after which he gets shot to death by a Predator. Hugo's voice is heard in the background, asking his family to run, and we find ourselves back in the present. Theta is seen reporting to Sandy that the creature she fought against wasn't her desired target and that it had all 4 mandibles. With Sandy reminding Theta that the food rations of the Sandpiper are low and that gravitational stabilizers still need repairs, she's seen approaching the dead Predator's spaceship. While she loads up things inside, the readers learn that Theta has been hunting Predators for the last 15 years, and her only mission right now is to become their nightmare. After she blows up the spaceship, she encounters the planet's native species, who end up attacking Theta out of fear because of a custom-made Predator body armor. As Theta is seen running from there, we find ourselves back in the flashback. Francesca has barely managed to bring Theta back to the Sandpiper, unaware that the Predator, who had killed her husband, has now followed her back to the settlement. Naturally, what follows next is nothing less than a bloodbath. Francesca somehow manages to hide her daughter inside a lab and tells her to return to Earth, taking Sandy's help, and most importantly, not to open the door after she leaves. A tearful Theta is seen asking her mother not to leave her, but we're back to the present events again by then. The adult Theta is seen getting pursued by a horde of the native species, but she manages to get on board Sandpiper, after which she escapes from the planet. Eventually, it's disclosed as to why Theta has decided to dedicate the rest of her life to hunting and killing Predators all across the universe, and while we'll definitely get to that bit, Theta is presently seen taking out a red egg-shaped device that she laid her hands on earlier inside the Predator ship. Apparently, Theta had first discovered these devices while exploring a Predator spaceship after her 4th kill, and in due course, learned that the device would ultimately help her track the Predators and trace their hunting routes. Moving on, Sandy reminds Theta about the gravitational stabilizers that are in desperate need of repair, and also the fact that the ship doesn't have the necessary parts on board for the repairs that are required in the first place. With Theta asking Sandy for advice, the AI points out the outpost Port Medway on the frozen tundra planet Tusket, and Theta begrudgingly agrees to go there, asking Sandy to wake her up when they arrive. Now you can call this a dream or even address it as a continuation of the flashback, but we find ourselves back in 2041 again. Francesca has hardly sealed the lab when she gets attacked by the predator from behind. A young Theta witnesses her mother cutting off one of the mandibles of the predator before meeting her grisly end at the very hands of the creature. No wonder she's had her reasons to build up a repertoire of predator kills since then, and it's only fitting to say that she'll not stop until she finds the one responsible for the death of her parents. The first chapter ends with Sandpiper's gravitational stabilizers malfunctioning while it's on the way to Tusket, and Theta crash landing on the very icy cold surface of the planet. Chapter 2 begins with Theta rebooting Sandy and leaving the Sandpiper to go to Port Medway and retrieve the parts needed to repair the ship. Theta has to cover 106 miles through the wilds to reach the outpost, and with no options left, she starts trekking across the ice. On the 11th day of her hiking, she kills a wild boar for consumption and is seen taking rest inside a cave when, all of a sudden, she encounters two Tusket humanoids on a hoverbike. Of course, it doesn't take Theta long to realize that the alien humanoids are not only native to the planet, but they're also scavengers who were there to kill her for her food and supplies. With Theta easily able to subdue both of them, she takes their hoverbike and leaves behind the leftover food and medical supplies for them to survive. The hoverbike works in favor of Theta, and the entire trip to the outpost is cut down to just an afternoon. However, the minute Theta enters the outpost, she senses something wrong. Upon coming across headless corpses of two company employees suspended from above, Theta realizes it is the work of a predator, and it also doesn't make sense to her as to why a predator is in the icy cold terrain of Tusket in the first place. This leads her to check the camera footage on a monitor screen, and there she finds a predator. With Theta zooming in on the image, she's further taken aback to notice that the predator is carrying her axe that she'd lost on the planet X14432-8. The second chapter ends with the predator approaching Theta from behind, and the latter not even having the slightest knowledge of it. Chapter 3 begins with the predator sneaking behind Theta, ready to strike her with the axe, but the copper stench of blood cutting through the purified air of the room has Theta realizing right on time that she's willingly walked into a trap. She turns back to shoot the predator, but doing so only has her plasma rifle get destroyed by the creature. What ensues is an intense fight between the duo, and it dawns upon Theta that not only has the predator been to the planet X14432-8, but it's also been craftily following her since then. One thing is for sure now, Theta has no intentions of getting gutted and hung like meat like the rest of its victims, and therefore she makes up her mind to be smarter in her approach while fighting the viciously dangerous predator. Given that she was exposed and vulnerable, and more importantly not ready for the fight, she initially decides to get to the hoverbike to lay her hands on the armor and gun, but when things don't go according to her plan, Theta comes up with a new one, or in other words, a smarter plan. Fair to say, the new strategy works in her favor when she manages to kill the predator by purging the port's coolant at it. After this, she takes back her axe and assembles all the parts that are required to repair the ship, along with food supplies. Before heading back to the Sandpiper, she also cuts down the corpses and puts them inside a freezer. This was Theta's way of giving the deceased a small measure of dignity in their death, given that she felt responsible for their ill-timed, brutal deaths. Back inside the Sandpiper, Theta is able to repair the damages. While she wonders how the predator was able to know her exact location, Sandy informs her that the predators were quite resourceful, and while they study their targets, they tend to assess who is a risk, who's not, and who is worthy of their attention. The third chapter ends with the Sandpiper suddenly getting ambushed by two predator ships. Chapter 4 begins with two predator aircrafts raining missiles on the Sandpiper. Unable to determine where the ships have come from, Theta takes command of the Sandpiper. Sandy tells her that the predator ships were undetected by radar as they must have resorted to their stealth technology to keep themselves hidden. Well, things eventually turn grave enough, and Theta keeps the Sandpiper on autopilot and is forced to go on the counter-offensive. While she's able to blow one of the ships up, what bothers her to quite an extent is why would the otherwise territorial predators, who have always preferred to work solo, turn up together in teams? As Theta tries to find an answer, the mid-air gunfight becomes rather intense, and that's when she realizes that the predator wants to take the battle to the ground. After all, predators are honorable hunters at the end of the day, and there's no honor in shooting one out of the sky. Theta dons her predator body armor and commands Sandy to make the Sandpiper land somewhere on the ground. Sandy asks Theta to reconsider the plan, given that the latter had been relishing alcohol while previously fixing the damages on the ship, but Theta has already made up her mind by then. She'll not let anything come in between her and her mission to find the three-mandible predator responsible for the death of her parents. Anyway, with Theta landing on the ground, she makes her stand as a warrior and calls out the predator, asking it to face her. What follows next is the predator and Theta standing face to face against each other in a death match, and it becomes pretty apparent that both are there to seek revenge on the other, one for her family and one for its fallen comrades. Filled with adrenaline, Theta goes batshit crazy. She gives her best while fighting against the predator, but it's fair to say that after a while, she doesn't really stand a chance against it. And just when it feels like all hope is lost and she's about to meet her gruesome end at the hands of the predator, someone ends up shooting the predator to the point that it actually falls down dead. The fourth chapter ends with a masked person wanting to know who Theta is and why she's flying around in one of their missing Astar ships. Chapter 5 has the crew of the Turnstone, a recon ship of Astar Industries, finding Theta and bringing her on board the ship. While Captain Ferrier is seen interrogating Theta, the chief science officer, Dr. Paulo Silva, is found examining the Sandpiper. Inside the Sandpiper, Dr. Silva not only discovers the video logs, but also finds Theta's predator biomasks that she'd gathered from all her hunts. Only after Dr. Silva informs Captain Ferrier of Theta's real identity does the interrogation stop. Captain Ferrier apologizes to Theta about the loss of her family and tells her that they have no choice but to bring her back to Earth along with them. Theta tries reasoning with Captain Ferrier, but he's locked her inside a cell. When Dr. Silva comes back to the Turnstone, he takes some food for Theta and goes inside her cell to have a conversation with her, especially about Theta's trophy wall of her kills on board the Sandpiper. He's also taken aback to learn that the predators were after Theta, hunting her down while she pursued her own hunt of the three-mandibled predator. Of course, Theta attempts to convince Dr. Silva to let her go back to the Sandpiper and prepare herself to fight off the rest of the predators. But when the former refuses to do so, Theta takes matters into her own hands. She has Dr. Silva held as a hostage with a fork and knocks out the guard standing outside a cell. She takes the gun from the guard and has Dr. Silva held at gunpoint, but soon runs into Captain Ferrier and the other guards. The fifth chapter ends with Theta and the rest realizing that a predator is on board the Turnstone. Chapter 6 begins with Theta and the Astar team joining forces to stop the intergalactic hunter on board. The plan is to have Theta lure the predator inside the cargo bay and shoot the hell out of the creature. While the group is seen arming themselves, Dr. Silva forgives Theta for taking him as a hostage. The group acts as per the plan, but they end up making the mistake of underestimating the predator's intelligence and believing that the creature will fall into their trap. As for the predator, it had already anticipated Theta's plan, so it comes to the entrance of the cargo bay, only to turn around and disappear. Theta realizes what the predator has in mind and asks everyone to abandon the ship. However, her warnings come a little too late as the predator is seen blowing up the whole recon ship. That's not the only thing that the predator does. It even rips apart Captain Ferrier's body into two halves right in front of Theta. Next, it picks up Theta by one of her legs, but the latter wastes no time striking the predator with a machete. It's during the duo's skirmish that Theta is able to get a glance at the predator's face, and to her shock, she finds it to be the three-mandibuled predator. The one she's been on the lookout for all these years. The one who had left her to live with nothing but pain. The one accountable for killing her parents. Theta can hardly believe her eyes when a fire is shot at the predator, wounding the creature. She turns around to find Dr. Silva, the only surviving member of the Turnstone crew. Dr. Silva takes another shot at the predator, but his gun gets destroyed when the predator throws a sharp-bladed shuriken-like disc at it. Theta gets up and screams that she's been waiting for this moment to arrive for the last 15 years, having tracked its kind to every planet, every hunting ground, so that she can end its life. A brief battle follows between the duo, and it ends with Theta decapitating the predator in full glory. The final chapter of the comic ends with Dr. Silva asking Theta what they would be doing now that she's killed her desired target, to which Theta tells him that together they'll be hunting down the remaining predators and killing each and every one of them. Well, that was the origin story of Theta Berwick, and now that we're all on the same page, let's get on to exploring the character further by delving deeper into more of her adventures. Following Theta's encounter with the predators on planets X14432-8 and Tusket, her next journey leads her to a predator's game-preserved planet where a bunch of humans have been brought with the sole purpose of being hunted. For this, we'll be taking a look into the 5-issue comic book series Predator: The Preserve, written by Ed Brisson, illustrated by Nitho Diaz, and inked by Bellardino Brabo. Fear is reborn. Issue 1 begins with a clueless man in a parachute landing in a tropical jungle. He's hardly touched the ground when a woman holding a gun sprints past him and tells him to run. The man follows her, and soon he's joined by a few others. The man asks what they're running from, to which another man tells him that the whole jungle looks like it's come alive. The woman tells them to stop talking, and as she tries to figure out what the next step will be, she finds another group of men running from the other side, screaming, "Go, go, go!" One of the men starts firing at something, and while initially it looks like he's shooting at something that has access to adaptive camouflage, that something is soon disclosed to be a predator, one that swiftly uses its double wrist blades on the chosen prey. More men are brutally slaughtered, and we, as the audience, realize that there are collectively 3 predators who have been hunting the humans since their very arrival. Moving on. A man named Alan brings 2 of the surviving members inside a cave, where they find a few more survivors hiding themselves from the predators. With each starting to converse with the other, it becomes all the more clear that each of them had been taken from Earth at different periods, preserved in hypersleep, and eventually brought to the Predator's game-preserved planet for the intergalactic hunters to hunt. Through further conversation, Isla and Lucas, a couple in military garb, disclose that both of them are members of the top-secret CIA program, Otherworldly Life Forms Program, OWLF, and explain to the remaining group that there have been recorded encounters with the predators even on Earth, and that the species in particular are exceedingly powerful hunters. While thinking of ways to survive against the predators, the group of 8 heads back out into the jungle to lay their hands on as many weapons and ammunition as possible. While the group is seen busy hoarding, a multitude of crates with parachutes are seen falling from the sky. Initially, the group believes them to be supply crates filled with food and therefore goes to check them. Alan, who happens to be a British gangster for the Monarch, takes a closer look at the crate and realizes that it was used to transport a living being. Suddenly, the group gets attacked by a gigantic extraterrestrial being possessing human-sized limbs and tentacles on its face. With the creature grabbing Ernesto, a Citizens Armed Force Geographical Unit Kafku soldier, the rest of the group begins shooting at it, but the bullets have no effect on the beast. The creature almost kills Ernesto, but thanks to security consultant Omar's quick thinking, the beast gets incapacitated when Omar throws a grenade at it. This particular incident has Isla telling the rest of the group that the predators are collecting deadly creatures from all over the galaxy and using the current planet as a hunting preserve. The oversized extraterrestrial being regains its consciousness and attacks the group once again, but this is when a predator emerges and critically injures the being using a plasma weapon on it. The predator activates its cloak technology soon after and kills American mercenary Bo with its wrist blades. As the rest of the group attempts to bring down the predator, the latter throws a bladed shuriken at Kiyoshi and injures the soldier of the Japanese Defense Forces. Kiyoshi gets pinned by the predator and is about to meet a brutal death when somebody from behind blows off its head. There's no point in guessing that the one responsible for killing the predator happens to be none other than Theta Berwick, and the first issue ends with the veteran hunter introducing a trusted confidant, Dr. Paulo Silva, to the group and asking the remaining survivors to come with her and Paulo. Savior or Downfall. Issue 2 begins with the other 2 predators discovering their dead comrade's corpse and performing a quick ceremony to honor the deceased member. Afterward, they leave a remote bomb behind to wipe out the slightest trace of their very existence. Somewhere else in the jungle, more crates have fallen, releasing a pack of sentient extraterrestrial beings known as the River Ghosts. While Theta leads the group, Omar asks her what's going on. This has the veteran hunter elucidating to the group that they're being hunted, and that the place they're all in is the training ground of the predators. Theta further states to Omar that the predators are simply using the survivors for practice purposes, and that the humans and the other alien beings are nothing but a chance for the predators to work up on their skills. More conversation between Isla and Paulo has Theta shocked to learn that the predators were basically keeping humans on ice until needed, or in simpler words, in stasis. Theta ultimately leads the group to the dead predator's cloaked spaceship and goes inside to retrieve a flight recorder. While they continue their journey, the other 2 predators start pursuing the group by following their footprints. As for Theta, she brings the abductees to her cloaked ship, the Sandpiper, and urges everyone to board the ship. However, by then, one of the predators has already caught up with the group and ends up killing Ernesto with its plasma caster. Theta screams that it's an ambush and tells everyone to take cover. She also hands over the flight recorder to Paulo and tells him to get everyone on board. Hell-bent on taking revenge against predators in general, she engages in an intense face-off with the predator. While the fight occurs, Kiyoshi, determined not to die on the planet, sneaks aboard the Sandpiper to take control of the ship. Given the Sandpiper's outdated security, Kiyoshi successfully overrides the authorized command of Theta and has things working in his favor. Kiyoshi's motives become clear. He's intent on leaving the rest behind. However, Kiyoshi having control of the Sandpiper distracts Theta, and the predator ends up taking advantage of the circumstance and dismembers Theta's right arm. The second issue ends with the predator about to finish off Theta when a group of river ghosts intervenes in this situation. Losers take the bait. Issue 3 picks up right where the previous issue had ended. We find the predator ready to kill Theta, but with the arrival of a horde of river ghosts, things take an unexpected turn. As the river ghosts pounce on the predator and brutally attack it, Alan helps Theta up and brings her to Paulo. Meanwhile, Kiyoshi is seen taking off in the Sandpiper and about to set the new destination as Earth. However, oblivious to Kiyoshi, Ajwa, who was a soldier and one of the abductees brought to the preserve, was also aboard the Sandpiper. Before Kiyoshi can enter the passcode to confirm the new set direction to Earth, Ajwa steps in and places a gun at the back of Kiyoshi's head, promising him that she'll blow his brains all over the console if she finds him laying a single finger on the keyboard. Kiyoshi tells Ajwa that he only wishes to go home to his family, who probably think that he's dead. We come back to Theta, and Paulo is shocked to find the condition of her arm. With Paulo informing Theta that Kiyoshi and Ajwa have taken off with the Sandpiper and that he'll make sure to get Theta and the rest somewhere safe, Ajwa returns for all of them. As for the Predator and the River Ghosts, it's fitting to state that the River Ghosts have the upper hand in the battle, but with the intervention of the third Predator in the skirmish, the River Ghosts end up getting massacred. By now, the second Predator is seen to be severely wounded. The third Predator comes up to its fellow comrade and hands him an axe. The second predator activates a remote detonator via its wrist gauntlet and blows itself up. The third predator is seen continuing with its hunt. Aboard the Sandpiper, Kiyoshi is locked inside a cell with Yautja guarding it. As for Theta, painful shrieks can be heard while Paolo is seen attempting to patch up her arm with a new prosthetic one. Meanwhile, while wandering inside the Sandpiper, Isla and Lucas came across Theta's predator tech that she'd gathered from her previous hunts. The amount of technology that Theta has under her possession has Isla wondering if their organization, OWLF, had even a fraction of it. Isla even shows Lucas the flight recorder Theta had asked Paolo to plug in and further tells her husband that she's discovered the hunting routes of the predators. With Isla pointing to Lucas that the predators are headed to Earth and that the duo needs to take matters into their own hands, we, as the readers, can already feel that a significant betrayal is to befall. Well, we're proven right pretty soon when Isla and Lucas knock Yautja down and open the cell where Kiyoshi is imprisoned. The third issue ends with Isla and Lucas commanding Kiyoshi to fly the Sandpiper back to Earth, unbeknownst to the rest of the group on board and the third predator, who has traced the Sandpiper's current location. Sacrifices must be made. Issue 4 begins with Theta regaining her senses and discovering that she has a prosthetic arm. Paolo, Alan, and Omar fill Theta in with whatever's happened since the predator attacked her. Alan also informs Theta about Kiyoshi taking off on the ship and how he wasn't successful at the end of the day. Of course, Alan has no idea about the current state of affairs inside the ship, and with that we come to the next panel, which has Kiyoshi almost on the verge of taking Yautja's life. Yautja is still knocked unconscious. Isla tells Kiyoshi that they'll not resort to killing, and will have everyone locked up instead till they manage to reach Earth. Of course, Kiyoshi isn't on board with Yautja's plan, but eventually agrees to do things her way. Lucas has an unconscious Yautja locked inside a holding room. Next, Kiyoshi tells Isla and Lucas that they need to take out the security system first, or the rest will see them come and seal them off from the control center. While Kiyoshi is seen leaving Lucas to guard Yautja and heading with Isla to the processor room, Theta goes to analyze the data from the latest black box along with Paolo. All of a sudden, it dawns upon Theta that the black box is on, with Paolo telling Theta that he never turned on the black box because he had to straightaway operate on Theta's arm after boarding the Sandpiper. Theta asks Sandy for footage to find out if anyone has been inside the control center, and also orders the AI to give her incoming as well as outgoing signals from the black box. Before Sandy can divulge information, Kiyoshi takes down the security system and switches the whole thing to emergency backup. Theta screams in horror, and she's pretty sure it's the work of a predator. Paolo tries to pacify Theta and tells her it's probably just a panel that needs resetting. Paolo takes Omar to check things out and ensure everybody on board is okay and accounted for, while asking Alan to stay with Theta. Right after Paolo leaves with Omar, Theta tells Alan that she must go to the armory immediately. Alan tries to stop her, but Theta is determined that something's wrong and that one will need weapons if one wishes to stay alive. By now, Yautja has also come back to her senses, and she finds herself locked inside a holding room. Of course, Yautja tries to reason with Lucas, who's guarding the room outside, but the latter has already made up his mind that he doesn't want Theta to keep all of the information, technology, and knowledge to herself, just so that she can continue her own crusade against the predators. As Lucas continues to justify his actions while facing toward Yautja, he's killed by the third predator, who by then has found its way inside the Sandpiper. Yautja screams in horror, and the predator looks at her from outside. It leaves a bloody handprint on the glass of the holding room and leaves from there, activating its cloak mode. As for Omar and Paolo, they make it to the processor room and discover that someone had pulled the panel out earlier. Kiyoshi and Isla reach the control center in the meantime to override the master control settings, but before they can do that, Isla finds the dead body of her husband in one of the monitor screens. Believing that the rest on board are responsible for killing Lucas, Isla decides to take revenge on all of them. This is precisely when Kiyoshi tells her to wait and start scanning the other monitor screens to find what the remaining group members are up to. He soon discovers a predator lurking in the West Wing hall and shows it to Isla. Kiyoshi tells Isla that he's going to close off all the access points to the control room, and in doing so, both of them will be safe. When Isla asks Kiyoshi about the rest of the group, Kiyoshi tells her that it isn't their concern what the predator does to the rest. The fourth issue ends with Theta and Alan reaching the armory and gearing themselves up with predator suits and weapons while Paolo and Omar are seen in the West Wing hall, oblivious that the third predator is right above them, ready to take them down. Who will make it out alive? Issue 5 begins with the third predator pouncing on Omar, much to his shock and scooping out a chunk of his side waist using its wrist blades. Paolo shoots at the predator in an attempt to save Omar, but the predator is fast enough to pierce his wrist blades right through Omar's chest, killing him instantly. Omar fires a few more shots at the predator and runs away. Theta and Alan are able to hear the gunshots, and they decide to find the others. It's also around the same time that Alan tells Theta that he'd love to stick around with her and Paolo and help them find more predators. Theta happily offers Alan to stay back with them. Meanwhile, Isla and Kiyoshi, who are safe inside the control room, begin to argue, with Isla having a change of heart and wanting to help the others. Kiyoshi is strictly against it, but with Isla constantly looking at the lifeless body of her husband, she becomes all the more determined determined to save the rest. Elsewhere, inside the Sandpiper, Paolo's seen running when Yautja spots him from inside the holding room. She manages to stop him, and Paolo finally helps Yautja get out of the cell. With the duo seen gearing themselves up with weapons, they cross paths with Theta and Alan. When Theta asks about Isla and Kiyoshi, Yautja tells the remaining members about Kiyoshi and Isla's real intentions to take over the ship. Suddenly, Isla appears behind them and tells them that Kiyoshi has taken the control deck. Theta is furious at Isla, and even more so to learn that it was Isla who had turned on the black box, but the latter tells them that she did everything for her daughter's sake and wants to come back to her daughter as a hero at the end of the day. Kiyoshi announces from the control deck that he'll not open the doors as long as the Predator is out there. Theta asks Paolo to rewire power to the control deck doors to get them all inside. Isla apologizes to Theta again, but she ends up getting killed by the Predator, who's managed to find the group by then. It's all the more a bloodbath, especially when the deadly hunter swiftly kills Alan. While Yautja and Theta are seen firing non-stop at the Predator, Paolo does his best to open the doors of the control deck. Yautja gets hurt in the process, but in the end, Paolo is successful in opening the door. Kiyoshi points a gun at Paolo and tells him to close the doors right away, but that only leads him to get punched in the face by Theta and fall on the other side. After the Predator drives its wrist blades through Kiyoshi's face, it looks at Theta. Paolo is unable to close the door of the control deck, which leads to Theta and the Predator engaging in a deadly face-off. The fight is brutal, and both put up quite the show. There comes a time when Theta attempts to use her machete against the Predator, but the hunter gains possession of the weapon and throws it aside. Theta tries her best to get the Predator off her, but initially she's unable to do so. It's only after Yautja intervenes in the situation, incapacitates the Predator by striking it with a weapon from behind, and hands Theta her plasma rifle, that she's able to blow the Predator's face off, thereby killing it at last. 6 months later, the readers find the Sandpiper landing in Tusket. Yautja has been given a hoverbike to reach the Astar base, which is 5 kilometers away from where the ship has landed. We also find Yautja carrying one of the black boxes with her, and that's when we learn that Theta has finally decided to share the information on the Predators with the OWLF. Before Yautja leaves, Paolo and Theta tell her that the next mission is to find the people the Predators keep in stasis. The 5th issue ends with Yautja leaving and the Sandpiper taking off from the planet. Well, that was an intriguing comic series by Brisson and Diaz, which brings us to the final leg of our video today. We'll be looking at Brisson, Eric Arciniega, and Francesco Manna's 4-issue comic book series, Predator: The Last Hunt, the 4th issue in particular. Now, mind you, in one of our recent videos, we've already explored the first 3 issues in detail, so our focus right now will be entirely on the last issue. But keeping in mind that we have new viewers who are watching this video, and just so that we're all on the same page, here's a bit of a recap. The first 3 issues basically have Theta and Paolo grouped together once again. Theta is already a veteran Predator hunter, and her battles against the galaxy's deadliest hunters have already cost her her right hand. Also, the years have taken a toll on her, and she often wonders if she has what it takes to fight the Predators. Anyway, Theta and Paolo arrive at Marbu, where they find a Predator's supply ship and the stasis chambers. Theta, in turn, also bumps into John Schaefer, Dutch's older brother, and learns from John that he and 50 other people had managed to get out of their stasis pods, only to get stuck on the damned planet for a long time. This has Theta telling John and the rest that she wants to check out the main stasis farm in Glenelg to assess the situation and understand how many people need rescuing in total. John gathers a group for a 2-week return trip, and they all set out for their journey to Glenelg. Upon reaching there, Theta and Paolo go inside the facility to check things out first and quickly realize that they've walked right into a trap that a super predator had laid out for the humans. The super predator, and in this case the Nightmare Hunter, lives up to its name, releasing a shockingly terrifying bioweapon in order to take out the whole crew. The bioweapon happens to be a pack of nasty-looking ferocious hellhounds, who not only attack the group but literally leave their guts hanging out. This is all a little too much, even for a seasoned hunter like Theta, and the 3rd issue ends with most crew members meeting ghastly deaths, the Sandpiper up in flames, and Theta literally struggling to get a hellhound off herself. This finally brings us to issue number 4 of Predator: The Last Hunt. We assure you that things are going to get even more interesting. So, are you ready for it? Let's dive into the concluding chapter then. Theta Berwick versus Nightmare Hunter. Theta wakes up to find herself inside a stasis chamber, and as she manages to get out of it, she discovers hundreds of stasis chambers all around her. As she wonders if the Predator has finally added her to its collection, she enters a chamber and finds her body armor lying there. Theta wastes no time in wearing the suit and leaves from there. She steps outside the Predator ship, finds herself on an unknown planet, and soon discovers Paolo and John tied to the trees. No one knows how exactly they got there in the first place, and with Theta trying to help them get down, John asks her where her weapons are. Theta tells John that the Predator left behind her body armor, as if it literally wanted her to have it, and as for the weapons, everything's gone. Unable to understand the Predator's motives, Theta attempts to break the chains that tie Paolo and John to the trees. When Paolo informs Theta that the Predator has also destroyed the Sandpiper, it naturally comes as a brutal shock to her. Suddenly, some kind of a blast knocks out Theta, and she finds the Nightmare Hunter at a distance. The purpose becomes all the more apparent when the Nightmare Hunter throws at Theta her machete and insists that she puts on her bio-helmet as well. The Nightmare Hunter clearly wishes to engage in a one-on-one fight with Theta, and the prize of the battle, no points for guessing, are Paolo and John. Paolo warns Theta and tells her that she only has a machete, whereas the Nightmare Hunter has already slaughtered more than 20 well-armed crew members like it was nothing. Theta leaps at the Predator while stating to Paolo that she doesn't really have a choice there. She also reminds him of her kill count, 32 Predators. The battle is rough and there's plenty of visceral action on display. While Theta and the Nightmare Hunter are both at it, John's chains are cut loose, and he ends up assisting Theta by attacking the Predator with the chains from behind. Theta charges at the Predator, screaming, but the latter ends up shooting her with its plasma cannon. With the Nightmare Hunter about to strike Theta with its katana, it dawns upon Theta that she's losing the battle. Mustering up whatever remaining courage she has, Theta tells the Predator that she'll not let it have her at any cost, and ends up jabbing the Nightmare Hunter with a poison capsule that Paolo had designed for her earlier. There was no way Theta would have let the Predators kill her and then hang her skull and spine as a trophy. Paolo had already warned Theta that the poison was absolutely lethal, and it would make one suffer excruciating levels of pain. Theta blissfully watches the Predator writhing in pain for a while, and then, using her machete, she ends up decapitating the Nightmare Hunter. Afterward, Theta, Paolo, and John decide to rescue everyone from the stasis chambers inside the dead Predator's spaceship and brings them home. The miniseries ends with Theta asking John if he can pilot the Predator spaceship, given that the Sandpiper is no more, and John is more than happy to try it. Marvelous verdict. Well, that's all for today. And with this, we finally come to the exciting closing of the miniseries and also the end of our video in general. So, how did you find the journey of Theta Berwick? We'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and we sincerely hope that you've got your fill of Predator lore for today. Now, if you enjoy this video, you know what to do. Please do leave a thumbs up and stay tuned with us, as we promise to come back with more exciting content. Till then, goodbye and thanks for watching. Have a nice one.